When you're a newbie to the outdoor world, there can be a lot of questions. Where are the best places to go? How are you going to get there? What kind of equipment is necessary or best? How much does it cost? Is it dangerous? The scenarios are endless. You might want to have an easy entry into the outdoor world, and a local, privately run campground you can drive to in your car may be a great place to get started and try some skills out. You might even decide that you like that kind of experience and you don't want to try anything more complex, and that's perfectly okay. You could also want to go deep in the wilderness, far from civilization, and that's okay too. The style of outdoor adventure you're interested in and how you get there, that's an important consideration to start your planning with. The things you might do in the city are different than the things you do in an outdoor setting. The things you do in the nearby areas of the outdoor world are significantly different than the things you might do in the far, deep areas of the outdoor world. Each area of the wilderness lends itself to a different method of adventure, and knowing what kind of camping methods there are will help you get a rough outline to your adventure as you begin your planning. Each different camping method has its own special benefits and detractors. The equipment that's required, the people you might meet, what you're going to see and do, the foods you eat, and the kinds of supplies you'll need to bring and budget for can widely vary depending on how you're getting to where you want to go. For example, a biker can see much more of the wilderness than a backpacker, but can be dependent on regular and deliberately planned resupply. An RV owner might benefit from a strong sense of community, but loses that close-to-nature feel that other styles of adventure have. All things being even, the Wilderness Training and Leadership School is focused on methods that are important for adventurers to go deeper into the wilderness, backpacking especially. But it's always good to know your neighbors. The term wilderness is a term that's used pretty frequently in conversations, in online posts, in marketing. It sounds different, alien, special. A person can get confused pretty quickly where or when the line is crossed from front country into back country or wilderness setting. Is it a certain mileage or time from roads? Does it depend on the effort or the length of the approach? Is a person's activity or skill level involved? Does that make it different? Is it the conditions out? Is it a mindset? Generally speaking, it's the level of development in the area. Merriam-Webster defines backcountry as, quote, a remote, undeveloped rural area. If there are roads that allow vehicle access and parking, developed campsites, garbage cans, picnic tables, bathhouses, or even concrete buildings with pit toilets, then the area could be considered front country. Leave No Trace has the following definition for front country, quote, front country is composed of outdoor areas that are easily accessible by vehicle and visited mostly by day users. Developed campgrounds are also in the front country area. Front country locations tend to be more crowded and attract a much wider range of visitor than backcountry does. Methods of camping that you use in front country include car camping, RV camping, and sometimes bicycle camping. If that's front country, then what exactly is the back country or the wilderness? Merriam-Webster defines wilderness as, quote, an essentially undisturbed area by human activity together with its naturally developed life community. No normal vehicle access, no facilities, nothing developed. You've got to get out there on your own human power, carrying everything you need, and it likely involves a high degree of technical skills and equipment, and should be some distance from roads. And how far from roads exactly? In wilderness medicine, the definition is that you're 2 hours from definitive care. That can describe some trailheads before you even leave the car, though, so be careful. It's an important consideration in context of emergency planning. You may very well be on your own. The backcountry wilderness is a dangerous place. Mother Nature has rain here, and weather and animal of all sizes can present real threats. Front country areas may be less risky, but you should be fully prepared when you enter the backcountry. Wilderness methods of camping include backpacking, canoe camping, and other methods, including helicopter camping, but we're not going to talk about that here. Throughout America, there's a very strong network of front country sites, usually near major highways, where people own recreational vehicles, also known as RVs. They can pull in and make a temporary home in a natural outdoor setting. Sometimes these campgrounds can become temporary homes to RV owners for weeks or even months. They stay there for a little bit, and there are a lot of good reasons why. First up, RVs are pretty comfortable. They're mobile versions of home depending on how much yours costs. You might have a full-size bed, couches, and a fully functional kitchen, television, stoves, microwaves, shower, air conditioning, and a whole lot more. There's almost nothing that you can do at home that's not possible to do with a properly equipped RV. It's certainly tempting to put some large quotes around the word camping. With all the space inside even the smallest RV, you'll have a lot of options for equipment. You can bring quite a bit more stuff to your getaway than would be available in other adventure methods. You might even bring your fishing and hunting gear, your hiking equipment and bicycle equipment all in the same vehicle and still have plenty of space for other things too. In the right area, you'll have everything you need and want, all on wheels. We mentioned earlier that RVs are set up in natural outdoor settings. Some RV parks can be in national or state parks and really get after having a strong sense of nature, but no matter where your RV is, it's unlikely to get anywhere near as close to nature as other wilderness methods of camping like backpacking. Just keep that in mind. What does that RV owner get in return? Social settings and a community feel. Many who own RVs are retired and they're not in any hurry to get anywhere, especially with the costs involved to drive a vehicle of this size. Sometimes these campers even plant gardens, set up elaborate decorations, and outdoor seating arrangements for nightly entertainment with the neighbors. The biggest drawback? Expense. When you add up fuel costs, storage fees, service fees, maintenance and campground fees, the costs of RV ownership can be very, very high. RVs are expensive. A nice RV will cost you the same price as a full-size house. A way to mitigate costs is to rent an RV for a vacation period. You can treat yourself to a nicer model. Are RVs cool? Absolutely. The auto has been a part of American society and with us for over a century at this point. It's no surprise that our collective vision of camping also includes this quintessential piece of American equipment. Car camping has become known as the classic American outdoor experience, and that's important. Car camping provides an introduction to nature, an easy way out of your usual routine, or even just a way to avoid expensive hotel rates during a otherwise regular vacation. Due to the ubiquitous nature of cars in America, car camping, the infrastructure to support your car camping adventure is fairly plentiful. You won't have too hard of a time finding an appropriate place, even in middle country areas, though in those areas you'll find just a little bit less support. Car camping is a far cry from the natural deep woods experience of backpacking, but it doesn't have the comforts associated with its big brother, RV camping. Even so, there are some definitive advantages. Car campgrounds can be either publicly government run or private, and nearly all offer comforts and luxuries such as flush toilets, picnic tables, grills, even electrical hookups, pools, and equipment rentals, among others. Some of these camps even have programs and nighttime entertainment packages like concerts, if you can believe that. That can add a lot of value to an inexpensive place to stay in comparison to a hotel. These types of amenities are simply not available to backpackers who are deep in the woods. In comparison to RV camping, car campers get access to these amenities for a significantly lower cost, so you save a little bit of money. Like RV campers, car campers drive right into a campground, parking just a few feet from where they'll set up their tent. A benefit is that there are not all extensive driving acrobatics required. RVs are large and long and can be somewhat hard to park after all. The ability to drive right up to the site you're camping at makes car camping accessible, and that cannot be underestimated. For people who don't have the time, the equipment, the comfort for truly being in a backcountry or wilderness setting, people with disabilities, families with young children, and more, car camping makes getting into a natural outdoor setting a much more feasible experience. With the incredible amounts of space in an RV are not available in most smaller vehicles, car campers do enjoy an expanded selection of equipment, larger, heavier equipment compared to what's being carried by backpackers. The car doesn't get sore, after all. Car campers may not have a full-size mattress, but they do get to have items like air mattresses, large chairs, big spacious tents that are getting easier to get set up every year. Car campers don't have to eat dehydrated, single-pot meals cooked on a tiny backpacking stove, since they can bring a fully functioning multi-burning stove or charcoal grill, a cooler full of ice, and normal-sized cookware. That's really nice. One consideration for car campers is being and remaining organized. Unlike RVs, cars are not typically set up for camping, although some models are a little bit easier to use in this capacity. Taking a lot of equipment without some kind of method for keeping things separated can end the car camper in a mess really quickly. Even so, the car camper doesn't need to be as concerned about space management as the backpacker might. Like RVing, car campgrounds typically are pretty social settings. People are living pretty close, and you can make new friends very quickly. This can be a double-edged sword. Sometimes the people you're near are less respectful of others and want to stay up partying into the early hours of the morning. We recommend reserving the biggest car camping plot as far in advance as you can, and considering car camping adventures during the less used times of the month or year. If you have an affinity for the open roads, traveling quickly, maybe staying in shape, but don't like using gas, bike camping, also known as bike packing, might just be for you. Bike camping is a less often seen cousin of backpacking, and in this particular method of adventure there's a whole lot more emphasis on the travel method than there is actual camping. Many bikers feel like camping is just something to do between being on the bike and enjoying a destination. Because of this emphasis, you should really like biking. If you're going to get into it, bike packing involves a lot of endurance, significant amounts of pre-planning, specialized equipment, and physical demands like few others. When you're trying to pedal up a hill with 50 pounds of gear in your backpack or panniers, you're going to ask yourself questions like, how did I get here? You're going to spend hours on the seat, sometimes in absolutely miserable weather, in order to get somewhere, so just be prepared for that. With that need, generally speaking, for roads or developed trails and drive-in campsites, bike camping is very goal-oriented, and requirements for orienteering are pretty high. A missed turn can add huge amounts of time to already long days. Bike campers need to have a well-defined route and clear destinations that everybody knows. One note here, you're going to want to plan a route that's within your means. Planning a 25-mile day that runs through heavy hills or trail sections your first time out isn't very wise. It's actually kind of dangerous. Biking gear is similar to backpacking gear, and like backpacking gear, there's a premium on weight and volume. You're going to want to pack light, and then even lighter. You'll be happy that you did. These luxury items feel like self-imposed torture when your legs start burning. There's another reason to have a defined and well-mapped route. If you have templated stops that include nearby stores, then you know exactly how long you'll have to go before you can resupply. Clothing, and specifically footwear, are many times specialized for cycling. Another factor to consider is that you're probably going to be your own repair person. When a tent has a rip in it, you might be able to work around it. Cyclists have to carry tools and spares to maintain their bikes, and since breakdowns are not uncommon, many bikers are also competent mechanics. A bike with a hole in the tire has to be fixed and aired up, or the adventure is over and you're walking your bike out. All this gear is typically carried in mounted bags known as panniers. These bags have different names depending on where they're mounted. Saddle bags are typically where you would place your overnight gear. Tube top bags are for small things you want to keep handy. Frame bags for heavy items, and handlebar bags for lightweight items. Your bike can look kind of wild with lots of panniers on it, although it's unlikely anybody's going to say anything with somebody who has tree trunks for legs. A less popular way to carry gear is pull-behind trailers. They're expensive and sometimes cause more problems. Some bikers organize or pay for organized or supported trips where a sag wagon, which is like a cargo van, carries the biker's personal gear, tents, kitchens, foods, tools, and spares, all the weight that's extra. Cyclists meet the van at a prearranged location for food and sleep, and in a lot of cases the van driver does all the cooking. Backpacking is the method that nearly everybody thinks of first when using the word adventure. It's certainly an adventure when you've given up nearly all the comforts you're used to. You've left civilization behind for the natural world, which you might find isn't as forgiving as it might have seemed from the internet. Backpacking is a challenge, and to win, you're going to be dependent on what you and your team members are carrying on your backs. Your adventure kit, your tent, a sleeping bag, a cooking gear set, safety items, food, and a few other necessities all packed leave just a little bit of space left for luxuries. A good saying to keep in mind is that ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. RVers and car campers are generally limited by the space in their vehicles, and while bike packers have to consider weight, it's primarily their leg muscles that are getting the work done for them. For backpackers, your entire body is under the strain of whatever weight you decide you're going to go out with. That's why many dedicated backpackers tend towards ultralight camping, which in a general sense is the creative effort to limit gear to the absolute minimum. Caveats aside, backpacking affords you and your team something that's a little bit lost in the other methods of adventure. It's as close to nature as you can get without being an animal yourself. A truly intimate experience with a harsh mistress, bugs and all. The journey, the sights you see, the things you observe, that tends to be a little bit more important than the destination for the evening. That's why there's a special term for right after sundown, hike or midnight. Even as an untrained naturalist, anyone can appreciate a wild animal or mountain view. On this, it's a great luxury item to bring a field guide for the area that you're in. A high level of fitness is an absolute requirement for backpacking. You should check with your doctor to make sure you're ready for the task. In modern society, we don't tend to have muscles that are well developed for this kind of exercise, and most long-distance hikers lose significant amounts of weight while on the trail. Malnourishment is a dangerous and deadly condition. You'll have to pay close attention to nutrition and ensure that your body has what it needs to stay strong and continue the hard work. While nutrition is important, proper foot care is an essential piece of your skill set. Blisters can and do end trips, and quickly. Foot powder, sock techniques, different lacing diagrams, and having properly sized footwear are almost mandatory. Weather is also a pervasive concern. Blue sky days are wonderful, but you're delusional if you think that all your days are going to be great for Instagram photos. That being said, nothing could be more true than the maxim that bad weather is a clothing problem. If you have the right clothes for the weather that you're in, everything's going to be fine. Wilderness backpacking is and always will be dangerous. Plenty of people have been injured or killed because they undertook adventures that they weren't prepared for. You might have a trail beyond your skill and hurt yourself, or run into a wild animal by accident, or even set up a campsite under a dead tree that cracks and falls. These are known as widowmakers, for example. Appropriate levels of risk mitigation will help you avoid nearly all potential problems, and be prepared for any kind of, hopefully minor, medical incidents in a wilderness setting. Keep in mind that getting to and from help might take hours or days. The coolest part of backpacking? Gear. Gear is a bunch of fun, but good camping gear is often very high in cost. This doesn't necessarily mean that the right packing gear is expensive, but you have to take the entire item into the account. What does it cost? How much quality is there in the products used in manufacture? How much does it weigh? Backpackers do always prefer lightweight gear, which tends to be more expensive. There's a user-defined sweet spot that is right between price, weight, and quality, and that depends on your personal strength, your willingness to spend money, and your willingness to accept differing degrees of quality for different equipment functions. When we started to explore the planet, we followed rivers towards oceans that opened our horizons to what was beyond. It's been scientifically studied that people love rivers. There's even a condition known as blue mind, where areas with water are known to have a positive effect on people's minds and bodies. Camping out of a canoe, kayak, inflatable river raft, or other kinds of small watercraft make for an enjoyable combination of the remote, intimate wilderness experiences that can be found through backpacking with the cargo carrying capacity that can be similar to car camping. What's the biggest consideration here? You probably guessed it, the need for water. While your planning isn't as in-depth as bikepacking requires, the course is fairly straightforward wherever the river goes, you're going to still need to study the route of the river in good detail prior to setting out. You'll need to know, for example, where you're going to stop for the night, what's a good spot. Even with this limitation on your ability to choose your route with freedom, the adventurer gets beautiful sights, easy access to bathing and swimming, which is a temporary break from gravity that might be really welcome after a grueling day. It's easy to clean your gear, fast transportation, that's all part of the daily experience. You might need to pick your campsites with more detail unless you plan to travel massive distances. You're going to spend more time in each one. With more time spent relaxing next to a body of water, it's only natural that you're going to want to carry your fishing gear. Fresh fish is a specific benefit of boat camping. Carrying capacity of your craft largely depends on an obvious factor: size. Kayakers can't carry as much as a canoe, and canoes carry much less than a river raft, which can sometimes carry as much as a small car. All, however, carry much more than even the largest of backpacks. The extra weight can allow for a few extra items that backpackers don't get, like axes or saws to chop wood with. If you do decide to have a fire, make sure you apply leave no trace principles. Your riverside river pit is going to be really obvious to the next group that comes through, and that's not fair. With all this extra carrying capacity, you should bring a self-contained sanitary unit known as a porta potty. Though most people think that doing your business in the water is acceptable, your feces do carry a lot of bacteria that can upset local ecology, among other detractors. Most people don't practice leave no trace, and finding somebody else's bathroom break in the wilderness really spoils the experience. It's best and adheres to leave no trace and potential local laws and regulations that you should pack your feces out with you. This toilet could simply be a 5-gallon bucket with a toilet lid that's placed over the opening. It's not so bad, we promise. If you don't want to do that, and it's acceptable to do so, make sure that you venture an appropriate distance up the shoreline to dig cat holes, about 200 feet. While the vast majority of us can walk and know how to ride a bike and drive a car, and can likely go on a backpacking, bikepacking, or car camping trip without too much experience, and probably have a good and safe time, anybody who sets off on a river with a canoe full of gear and no knowledge of boat handling is asking for real trouble. The larger you get with your watercraft, the more considerations there are for how to handle it properly, how to do it safely. Training is essential, and you may need multiple crew members to effectively control the craft. You'll also need special gear like anchor lights and personal flotation devices known as PFDs. Weather is critical in all senses, but especially here. For a boat camper, Heavy rains can produce a river that's turbulent and dangerous, and that's somewhere you should never be. If you lose control of your boat, you might find yourself getting caught under a downed tree, which are known as strainers. People get caught and drown under strainers every year, and these deaths are completely unnecessary. There are many sanctioned organizations like the American Canoe Organization or an outdoor training program such as Outward Bound. Many nature organizations, canoe and kayak clubs, the YMCA's, private outfitters, they all offer ACA accredited training. If you want to go boat camping, be prepared. Welcome to the end of the course. We're going to do a few questions in review. Question 1, how far is the wilderness? If you answered 2 hours, you are absolutely correct. Question 2. What is the most accessible mode of camping? If you answered car camping, you've gotten 2. Question 3. Does boat camping require specialized skills? The answer is yes. Boat handling is not for beginners. So now you know that your adventure, the way you get there, the travel method is going to define the overall flavor of the experience. Backpackers may not get to see as much of the deep wilderness as boat packers, but boat packers have to stay close to the water, which is in lower grounds. Car camping is accessible for most, but it's not as comfortable as RV camping. Which camping method will you choose? This series on adventure planning and leadership is continued in the next episode, activity planning. If you liked what you saw and learned something, we want you to like and subscribe to our YouTube account and follow us on Twitter at WTRLS1. You want to know more or share a story? Please leave a comment. We'll get back to you.